Hey, Jay Clark with RockyMountainATVMC.com. Got a good little project I want to go over with you. It's a Honda CR85. It's a 2005 model, and there's a real big void in the market for a good trail bike for Junior to ride. And so I'm going to give you some tips on what we did to make a good trail-worthy machine for our little guy. So one of the first things you want to do with a trail bike, of course, is you need some handguards. And we got the cool Tusk D-Flex handguards that wrap around. So that way when Junior drops his bike, he doesn't bend any levers or throttle tube, anything like that. Makes it so he can kind of just throw the bike wherever and it's no problem. Really nice pieces. Renthal makes a very nice mini bar, 7/8 are bend for that bar. Works well with most riders of average to a little bit taller height. Works Connection's kind of the standard as far as clutch perches. Got the really nice Pro Perch, and then we have that on here with the A-lever setup. Really good setup. Now this bike originally started its life off as a small wheel bike with a 14-inch rear and a 17-inch front. So we wanted to make this a taller bike for our trail riding, and our riders getting a little bit bigger. So we went ahead and upgraded to some big wheels for this bike. We're able to find those on Craigslist, and also a swing arm. Those are the only differences, is a longer swing arm and the other wheels. Okay, so to go with the larger wheels and being a big wheel bike, the added leverage, the suspension needs to be redone. Reset up, it's way too soft if you don't. Racetech was able to do that and set us up with a good trail setup for this bike. Okay, so for the motor, we kept it pretty well stock. Tom Morgan did touch up the cylinder and head for us, and so we still just can run some good pump gas. We do add in a little bit of race gas just now and then because we are worried about detonation at times. But usually with trail riding, not a big deal worrying too much about detonation unless we're in some real sandy or muddy conditions. Okay, so to go with the motor, the Moto Tasneri V-Force Recage, kind of a real standard in the industry, really good performance gain, helps throughout the entire power, works really well and lasts a long time. We also added a coolant bottle. We had one laying around. Motion Pro has a plastic bottle, and this just allows a little overflow. If Junior gets stuck on the trail, he's overheating, it's going to fill the bottle and not dump the coolant onto the ground. So this way could extend your riding day and save the motor as well. So to go with the motor, the FMF Fatty with the Turbine Core silencer works really well. Turbine Core is a spark arrestor legal silencer, so we're legal at all of our trails out west here. So really good setup, works well and lasts a long time, very durable. Chain and sprockets are all Renthal pieces. Got a 57 rear tooth to pull this bike really well in the trails, so you can stay in first gear up most trails and pulls it really well. Steely has a heavy flywheel we added to the motor to give it a little more tractability throughout the power, to kind of tone that two-stroke feel down a little bit, so it works a little bit better on the trail. From CV4, we added on a couple good items. They have some radiator hoses, which actually look really cool, and then they have their high-pressure radiator cap, which helps us from overflowing nearly as quickly. Moose makes these grab straps for the front and rear of the bike, and that's kind of nice if your guy gets stuck somewhere. You can help pull them out without tweaking on the fenders. There's no real good fender support on these, so you want to grab on the straps. For added stopping power, we went ahead and upgraded the front of this bike. Not a critical deal to do, but something we did because we had some left over from some guys that were racing CR 150s. And it's a large front rotor with a standard CRF 450 braking caliper. Applied Racing makes this and has this entire setup with the bracket and the disc. You'll need to find your own caliper from a scrap CRF 250 450. So for tires in this thing, of course, we went with some Dunlops. We've used the MX51 front, and we've gone from MX31 and 51 rears. Tried both of those in the trails. 31 seems to have a little bit better usage, can run a little low pressure, works really well. Okay, for real trail riding and trying to stay up with the big guys on bigger bikes, fuel capacity is a big problem for these little bikes. The stock tanks are very small. IMS has a big tank we were able to use. Really good tank. Downside is it's made for the CR80, so you lose your shroud on this side of the bike. So it looks a little bit older than maybe some of the newer bikes out there, of course, but it's very practical and functional. So it works good, doesn't look as cool, but works very well. Moto Seat custom made us a seat cover. They also cut the seat down slightly, so we get a little bit more distance there so that rider can touch the ground just a little bit easier. Attack custom made us some graphics for this thing. The tank ones don't fit ideal, but they do the best they can there with the large tank. But the bike graphics look really cool, and they make a real good, affordable set of graphics for you. Hey, so that's what it takes to make a good trail bike. Unfortunately, it is a lot of work. There's not a lot of bikes out that are real good for a kid from, let's say, 10 to 13, 14, in that age bracket for trail riding. TTR 125s can be big and heavy. CRF 150Fs, they're kind of heavy. This is a lot lighter, a little bit stronger, in power. Of course, two-stroke's a little bit harder to ride and more pipey. The heavier flywheel hopefully helps him in that, a little more tractability. So a lot of work. It sure be nice if somebody like Honda came out with a really good trail bike for these preteens and teenagers. Something like this size that would be good. But until then, this thing works really well.